Hello, everybody. Welcome into Fantasy Pros. I'm Ryan Wormeli, joined as I am every Monday by Tera Roberts. We are talking 5 moves to make ahead of Week 6. We are barreling through the season here, Tera. Quick reminder for everybody that all of our weekly consensus rankings and tiers can be found at fantasypros.com/rankings. We've got a couple buys. We've got some sells. We've also got a drop later on in the show. Let's start with the buys. Who do you have for us here this week?
We're going to start with a buy that surprisingly should not be a buy, but it is at this point. I wanted to talk about it last week, but something in my gut told me to hold off just 1 week before we talked about Derrick Henry here. By Derrick Henry, the Ravens are obviously in a really terrible position here with Lamar Jackson out for multiple weeks, potentially through the Ravens Week 7 bye there. They've got a matchup against the LA Rams this week. Do I think that Henry will have a vast improvement this week? No. The buy for him is for the future, the back half of this season here. Because again, when we look at this Ravens offense and Derrick Henry, we know that he gets aggressive usage on the ground. So if the Ravens are struggling, falling from behind, ultimately that just limits the upside for Derrick Henry and reduces his touches overall. When they're in better situations and better matchups there, he'll get back to being Derrick Henry. There's no issue with him being cooked, him being too old, anything at all. We saw in week 1 that he looked fantastic. The Ravens just have to get into better matchup situations here. And after the Ravens bye, things start to look up here. So let's say we get Lamar Jackson back. We've got matchups against Chicago, Miami. Excellent matchups here. We got Minnesota that has also been very vulnerable on the ground, even though they've been a tough defense overall. Then the playoff schedule is Cincinnati, New England, Green Bay. So it's just a wonderful thing to buy into if you're a team with an excellent record and you don't need Derrick Henry specifically to put up big numbers this week. If you can hold off to the back half of the season, it can pay off dividends for you.
Yeah, it's really interesting because Lamar has had, when he's had injuries in the past, they have sometimes lingered, but they have talked about this as like, this is like a couple weeks and, he will be back. And the Ravens as an organization aren't going to say, oh, well, we're just going to tank the season as early as, early October. They're going to get their players back and try and want to compete. It's the way they're wired. And you're right. The schedule, I think I read somewhere that it's the 27th easiest schedule, or so I guess like the 5th easiest schedule, the 27th most difficult schedule. It's a very easy schedule is my point.
Yeah.
Coming after the bye, it's just been a brutal, first 6 games for them, with the injuries on top of it. Henry did struggle against Cleveland in week 2 when the team was still healthy. Cleveland's also just a really good defense and made it a real point to stop him. So I don't want to put too much weight on that when these other struggles have been coinciding with the team struggling so much, like you mentioned, just in terms of tough schedule and injuries and all that. So I find Henry really fascinating because if you believe that Lamar is going to be back and healthy and this will be the offense at the very least, maybe not the defense, but the offense that we expected, then now might be a great time to buy because his manager is saying not only has he been bad, but he has the Rams coming up and then a bye. So that's 2 more weeks of struggles here. You can almost take advantage of that. Where do you have him rest of season amongst running backs? He's still inside the top 10. He's RB8 in our consensus rankings. I don't get the sense that that's how he's being viewed by most fantasy managers, though.
That's exactly how I have him. But when I'm looking rest of season, I am taking into account that, hey, just for right now, it's a bad situation and you can't use him. But when you factor in the level of upside that he has, if you can just gut it through, and that's why it's more of a specific buy. If your team is struggling right now, this is probably not the best buy for you. It won't matter if you buy him in week 8, he goes off, but you've lost all the games in between and then you're out of playoff contention, right? So rest of season, I still have him top 10. But we got to get there first to the rest of the season for him.
Yeah, definitely a more appealing buy if you are currently, 4-1 or, in first place and doing well and something where you can afford to say, hey, let me set myself up for, the second half of the season already, as opposed to if you're 1-4, probably not.
Yeah.
Who's your other buy for us this week?
We're going to stick on the running back track here, a big name running backs that have poor perception here. Kenneth Walker is a buy for me, and that came aggressively after last night's game where I sat through the frustration of watching his usage. Because the thing about him as a buy is that his production overall is fine, but the perception is what makes him a good buy low candidate here. Because when you look at the numbers, I'm not convinced the Seahawks are intentionally trying to pull Kenneth Walker out of the game once they get into the red zone, because the numbers don't say that. It just so happens that he's got possibly the worst luck of any running back. He's breaking off these big runs. And typically, when you break off a big run, you are often pulled out of the game for a little bit of rest here, another back put in. So if you're breaking off a big run to get the team to the 5 yard line and then Zach Charbonnet gets subbed in, it's a bad look there and he's getting the touchdowns. But when you're looking at the backfield as a whole, Walker is still the lead back. There is no indication that we're having any kind of flip here. He's still getting excellent volume. He still has more snaps than Charbonnet. He still has plenty of attempts in the red zone. He has 13 attempts in the red zone. That is within the top 15 of all running backs. The problem is that Charbonnet has 13 attempts in the red zone as well. So it's a split backfield in theory, but Kenneth Walker is still the RB1 of that team. And when you look at the numbers overall, outside of week one, where you could argue that the lack of usage there was well below expectations, and the reason for that was that he didn't get that preseason work, so they were doing maybe a slow ramp up since he had been dealing with a foot injury during the offseason. But after that week, Walker's worst finish has been RB26, and he's had 2 top 12 performances, one of those games being in tandem with Zach Charbonnet. The opportunity is there. He's got a safe floor. He's got a high ceiling. He's a weekly top 24 running back. And right now, fantasy managers are frustrated with that perception of Charbonnet, so he's actually a buy low despite the numbers being good.
And when you look at his game log, like when you look on Fantasy Pros, the teams that are difficult are highlighted in red, the teams that are easy highlighted in green. And if it's neither, like kind of a neutral matchup, then they're black. Every single matchup from week 6 through the end of the season, as of right now, is green or black. There are no like designated, very difficult running back matchups, throughout the rest of the year. And there's a handful of ones that are even quite good that are green in there. He is such a fun player, like to watch at times, and then so frustrating at other times when they're taking him off the field and everything like that.
Yeah.
Even with week 1 dragging him down in terms of just like the overall yardage production, he's 10th in the NFL in rushing yards this season. Again, that's even including his down week 1, and he does have 3 rushing touchdowns. Right? It's not like he hasn't gotten in the end zone. It just he feels like it could be more, and it just hasn't been. It's so funny, like. I remember all of the, dynasty rookie draft, discussions about Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker in the same year. And here we are, years into their careers, and they're back to back in the rest of the season rankings. They're RB14 and RB15. And it's like those two are just, attached at the hip for their careers here. Does RB14 sound about right to you for Walker?
It does. He doesn't, because unfortunately the presence of Charbonnet, he doesn't ultimately on a week-to-week basis have that top 5 upside. But having him right outside of that RB1 category is like literally the perfect spot for him.
I do want to let everybody know that if they want a chance to win one of the most unique pieces of NFL fan gear out there, the large NFLPA wall smack, courtesy of our good friends at Trophy Smack, the #1 destination for epic fantasy football hardware, then this is your shot. Their oversized, officially licensed NFLPA wall smack are bold statement pieces that are perfect for your fan cave, office, or living room wall. It's not just decor, it's a way to rep your favorite players in style. To enter, all you need to do is subscribe to the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel right now. Drop a comment below on any of our videos. That is it. We will be announcing a winner right here on the channel, so make sure to turn on notifications so you don't miss your chance to claim this epic prize. All right, Tara, give us a sell here.
We're going to sell DeVonta Smith. I'm a very consistent person. A few weeks ago, I said sell A.J. Brown off his big performance against the Rams. I will say the exact same thing about DeVonta Smith here. And it's no insult to him, the talent that he has. It's just that the Eagles don't naturally want to be a pass-heavy team. Jalen Hurts threw the ball 38 times this week. That's just outside of the norm. And I'm not surprised that it happened. When you have both of your superstar receivers expressing their frustration, it's that, squeaky wheel gets the oil situation where you can almost guarantee that there's going to be more pass volume. But on a week-to-week basis, that is not the goal of the Eagles. And when the pass volume comes down, unfortunately, DeVonta Smith is going to be reliant on touchdowns. And when those don't come, you get those nasty single-digit fantasy point performances that wreck your week, unfortunately. So there are game scripts that will push them into more volume, but it is game specific. And I don't want to rely on a receiver whose floor is legitimately below 5 fantasy points. So this is a fantastic opportunity, right? The performance from DeVonta Smith was so high. And in any other situation, you're looking at these numbers and you're feeling like he's putting them up on a regular basis here. But here, not so much. So you want to take this opportunity when they've increased the pass volume and sell him if you can and move on to what I think is, a more stable situation if you can sell him for somebody else that has more reliable production.
What are you hoping? Like, is there a name specifically you would throw out of the type of player you'd be trying to get back for him?
Yeah, and you might have to, do a little bit of adjustment. But a guy that I always like to say is just, it's Michael Pittman for me. A guy that doesn't have that same perception, more so gets categorized into the same bucket as guys like DeVonta Smith and Jamison Williams, despite the fact that he is the wide receiver one of his team and does have consistent volume there. Just again, he's got that perception of, upside being limited, Daniel Jones and whatnot. So ultimately, you can flip to something else like that.
Who's your other sell?
My other sell there is Sam LaPorta. Again, you don't, it doesn't always have to be a sell high situation. And, as a matter of fact, there are other tight ends that are having these strong performances that I don't think are sell highs. But when I'm looking at LaPorta specifically, it's because he offers the star power in a trade to garner a high end asset at another position. He had a fantastic game, right? 92 yards, nearly 100 yards, a touchdown here. But we cannot forget that those boom games happen for him. But when the boom games don't exist, his floor is super low. We had 3 straight games of 7 or less fantasy points. This was his first touchdown of the season. There are natural highs and lows in his game because of the offense that he plays in and because of the weapons that surround. But again, he is a high-end, flashy tight end. He was a guy that most people were drafting as the tight end for. So coming off this big performance, you can get a little bit more bang for your buck out of him if you're looking to sell him. And then with all of these other fantastic performances that we've had from tight ends coming up as strong options here, guys like Darren Waller and Mason Taylor, Theo Johnson. What I'm discovering as I do Q&As and questions throughout the week is that a lot of people are rostering multiple tight ends. So if you have Sam LaPorta, there's a good chance that you've got another tight end that you picked up because he was just popping on waivers. If that's a guy that you feel comfortable with rest of season, if he's a second look at his offense or has high upside or has high touchdown equity, maybe he's on a team where, wide receiver one was lost to an injury, like a Theo Johnson. If you want to turn that direction, rely on that, and then Sam LaPorta, sell him, upgrade it in the position, that's something that you can very realistically do.
I mentioned kind of the coloring of teams, in the game log and the schedule on Fantasy Pros. A lot of red for Sam LaPorta in terms of just tough matchups against tight ends. There's one green, a handful of red, and then the rest neutral. So, not the most enticing schedule going forward for him. Where do you mentioned he kind of going as like the tight end 4 in draft season. Where is he now for you?
For me, he's more so kind of in that tight end 7 or 8 area. And maybe as we progress forward and see how much we can rely on these other tight ends, that would be the key in terms of him moving down a little bit. He's still got high upside here because the thing is that a lot of these other tight ends, Travis Kelce is underperforming. You would want Sam LaPorta over him. Brock Bowers is dealing with an injury. Sam LaPorta has the higher upside there. So it gets kind of messy when you're in that 4 to 6 range in terms of all the injuries that we're dealing with and underperforming guys. He's got high upside here, but there are guys that could legitimately pass him as the season goes on.
And you mentioned, managers having multiple tight ends in a lot of, cases. And that second tight end, if they took a backup, there's a chance that backup's looking really good now. Like some of the best tight ends this season, Tyler Warren was going well after Sam LaPorta. Jake Ferguson obviously is getting tons of volume now. Tucker Kraft making the leap. Hunter Henry has been a great target in New England. Mason Taylor getting more work now. Like even if you took a chance on Kyle Pitts late, he's kind of paid off. Like there are lots of options is the point. Yeah. Darren Waller, maybe you picked him up. I mean, a lot of these guys have elevated.
We're deep at the position. And so if you can take the flashier name, if I were looking at maybe a Dalton Kincaid, I feel like sometimes people have the skepticism around here, the lack of potential pass volume from Josh Allen, inconsistencies there. He wouldn't have that same high-end, high upside sell opportunity as a Sam LaPorta, who has finished as an overall tight end 1, who has been drafted as an overall tight end 1, kind of gets the little bit of the boost there in terms of that mass appeal for trade targeting.
We've got a special offer for everyone. Unlock a month of Betting Pros Premium for free. Download the Betting Pros app today. Use promo code FP1month. That's the number 1, not spelled out. Get access to tools like the Same Game Parlay tool, the Prop Bet Analyzer, and the Prize Picks Prop Bet Cheat Sheet. Don't miss out. Try it free for 1 month now. Available on iOS and Android. Again, that code is FP, the number 1 month. All right, Tara, wrap us up with a drop.
I hate to do the drops because I hate to break hearts. It is Jerry Jeudy. unfortunately. And I love Jerry Jeudy. I want the best for Jerry Jeudy, but there's way too much working against Jerry Jeudy at this point. I still think he offers value. So this is not you have to drop him. Like, you got to move on. There's no other option. If you have the ability to keep him, sure. But as we look across waivers and have all of these injuries that are happening, these running backs that are coming up into prominence, we talked about the popping tight ends as well. There's opportunities to grab people that have higher upside. And if you need that upside and you can't afford to hold on to Jerry Jeudy, it's okay to let him go at this point. The offense did look better with Dylan Gabriel. That is undisputed there. But what was the true benefit was for the tight ends. And that kind of makes sense in terms of how we were looking at Kevin Stefanski's usage of Dylan Gabriel in the preseason. It seemed like there wasn't going to be a lot of aggressive downfield passing, more design plays to put him into comfortable situations. And naturally, those are often going to be to the tight ends here. So I'm not shocked that we didn't see a massive increase in volume to the receiving core. But less about the tilt of the volume to tight ends and more about the fact that, one, even before we got Dylan Gabriel, Jerry Jeudy was looking more kind of lockstep with Cedric Tillman as a 1A, 1B, and it was kind of low-key looking like it was Cedric Tillman that was maybe the 1A of that grouping. Now we have Tillman out, Isaiah Bond comes in, and for the past 2 weeks, Isaiah Bond has also outproduced Jerry Jeudy. So when you look at Jerry Jeudy and his skill set, he benefits from quarterbacks that like to air out the ball, hence why he thrived and went nuclear with Jameis Winston. But we don't have that in that offense right now, unfortunately, for Cleveland. So if there's one person who is naturally going to fall a little bit to the wayside in terms of fantasy production, unfortunately, it is Jerry Jeudy. So again, I mean, he's not a must drop because, see, the Cleveland schedule does get much softer, extremely soft as they go through the remainder of the season here. But if he's not the one that's going to be benefiting from the quarterback change and the soft schedule, and you need to move on, I think it's perfectly fine for you to do so.
It does get softer later. Maybe not right away. At the very least this week, it's pretty tough going from, facing a very aggressive Vikings defense in London to coming home. Now you go to Pittsburgh, a Steelers team that's coming off their bye week. So not a fun turnaround for the Browns offense there. So go ahead and drop Jerry Jeudy. I'm not even going to play devil's advocate. I don't have a case to not drop him. So it's a good point. Bye. You will go ahead and wrap things up there. For Tera, I'm Ryan Wormeli. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll see you again next time.